We have been running a little overtime on this Galaga project. We're going to get finished on it today for sure. I played with it a bit yesterday, and we should have enough to keep us busy for this hour, but certainly no longer than that. So happy to get done with that. All right, so we've loaded up our Galaga working file, which has all of the code that we've been using up until now, and should get you caught up. I'm going to paste it into the live chat for anyone who's watching live. And you can remember, you can always get right into that file again. If you ever get stuck, you can just hit the refresh button and reload my file and see exactly where we are right now. So you'll remember that on the last session, we had got our first drone pretty much working. Let's have a look at him on the screen here and see what he looks like. And so he swoops in. Whoa, my costumes are wrong here, eh? Now, this is something that we were having some trouble with in some of the earlier sessions as well. A lot of what happened in this game is tied into the costumes, and it looks like there's no default set for the costume here. So this guy is looking wrong. I'm going to go into his costumes. I'm just going to flip him back to the first costume and see if that fixes things. And he's still coming in with the wrong animation, eh? I don't think this happened on the weekend, did I? I was doing some messing around with this file, just trying some stuff out, and I seem to have blown up the costume. Okay, I'm going to have to see if I can sort this out quickly, guys, before we get going. So where do we switch to that costume? So it's switching to costume 0 at some point here, and that is a mistake. Here it is, test collision. So if I'm touching a missile, that's when he switches to that costume 0. And I think that's the only place he switches to costume 0. So he must think he's touching a missile. And that is the missile at the top of the screen here, eh? Maybe, I'm not even sure what this missile is doing here. Let me see if this is what's causing the problem. I'll just drag it down to the bottom and we'll restart the game. Nope, that's not it. So what is causing our drones to have the wrong costume on them? That is very peculiar. Sorry guys, I thought I had this all ready to go. If anyone else has any ideas about what's causing that, all the costumes are listed here as costume 10 or costume 1, which are the two different costumes for the guy flying. And there's only this one spot here, if touching my missile, and it's not touching my missile, so there's something weird going on here. This is a nice way to start a Monday morning, isn't it, guys? Okay. All right. I am a bit stumped here. All right, I think we should just keep coding here. If anyone has any ideas on what it is that's triggering that animation change in the software, I'm happy to hear. But otherwise, I think we're just going to keep going here and hope that this problem sorts it out, or that I figure it out as we're going along here. Okay, so as I mentioned before, the drones, our first drone is going to do basically the boring thing. It's going to come onto the screen, swirl around a little bit and stay there for a bit, and then it's going to come down and try to plunge at you in your direction. Now drone 2, which we're going to get started in soon, is going to do that exact same behavior, but when he stops to hover, he's going to shoot down at you. So we're going to have to add a few pieces of code to get that going. But first we have to make a good copy of drone 2. Now there are different ways to do that here. We already have a graphic here for drone 2, and you can see it's got, let's go over to it right now, and I look at its costume. So it's got 2 different costumes. So it looks very similar to the other one, just a slightly different color scheme, and then it's got 3 different explosion graphics as well. Now we could bring all of the code over from drone 1 to drone 2, but that's a bit of a tricky process. We have to drag each of these blocks over and drop them onto drone 2. The easier way is to make a copy of drone 1 and change it, but we haven't set up drone 1 with the proper sprite. So what we're going to have to do here is I And I think that's the way we're going to do it then. So what I want to do is copy drone 1 and then copy the sprites from drone 2 over to our new drone 2. It's a little bit confusing. So the first thing I want to do is grab these two guys, drone 2 and drone 3 here. And I'm just going to drag them to the bottom of the file here so I don't get them confused with the copies we're about to make. All right, I've done that. So now when I make a copy of drone 1, it's going to appear beside him, and I'll know that the clones we're going to use are up here, and the copies that we don't need, where we're just going to grab the graphics for them, are here at the bottom. So let me click on drone 1. I'm going to right-click and select duplicate. There we go. Oh, that actually appeared at the end again. So let's hold it. So which one is which here now? Yeah, this is the one that that has the same graphics, so that's definitely it. We'll call that drone. Okay, we'll rename them after we're done here. And we'll make one more. No, actually, we're not going to make the next duplicate yet because there's going to be some changes in drone 2 that go into drone 3. So this is actually drone 2. I don't know if it'll let us rename it drone 2 because we already have a drone 2 on here. Let's see if that works. No, it doesn't let us. Okay, no problems. So what I really want to do is just replace the graphics at the top of this the costumes here with these two costumes with new costumes. So I'm going to go over to my drone, my old drone 2. I'm going to grab this red costume and I'm going to drag it over to the new costume, to the new object here that's now called drone 3. I'll drag that first one over and I'll drag the second one over. And I'm done with this guy, so I'm going to delete him. And I also want the missile. I'm going to need the missile because it's actually part of the sprite for drone 2 here. So I'm going to go over to my sprite that's called missile, my missile, and I will drag this missile graphic from the costumes over onto drone, what's called drone 3 here. Okay. So now I have the two costumes. I have the wrong costume at the top here. So I'm just going to trash those. This is a little more complicated than it needs to be, I guess, eh? Then I'm going to take these two graphics that I just imported and drag them to the top. And it's very important that your costume for the missiles be down at the bottom here. And I believe it has to be facing to the left as well. So I'm going to grab it just by dragging a cursor around it and then hold the shift key down and turn it to the left. Now it's a little hard to figure out which way is left here. You can see that the missile is yellow and the fire behind it is red, and that's how you'll know which way is facing left. Okay, so I think we're all set up here. Drone 3 is no longer properly named. Since we got rid of the other drone 2, we're allowed to rename it now. So I'm going to go drone 2. All right, so now we can start coding. Let's go back to our code window here and we'll have a look. So we're going to be modifying a few things. And someone's asking for the link. Let me just paste it in there right now. All right, so we're going to be modifying a few existing pieces of code plus adding a couple of new functions here that make him shoot. So it's going to be a couple of steps, just bear with me. So let's start with the code that says initialize enemy. So this is a code block here that just gets everything ready to go before we go ahead and tell him what to do. So when he starts as a clone, he goes through this initial set of instructions, and then he starts flying onto the screen. So we need to add an if statement here. We can add it right below this first if statement. So I'm going to go to my control blocks and grab an if statement and pop that in. It's a little tricky to get into that place. I might pull these two blocks loose and then attach it and then put this back underneath. So those two point in direction and move has to be down below those if statement blocks. All right. And so we're determining what's happening here using costume number. Costume 3 is the explosion costume, the first explosion costume. So it knows that if we're in costume 3 and this block gets called, it can start running through the death animation. So again, we're going to do the same thing here. Actually, I'm going to duplicate this fellow here. So I'm going to move my cursor over the equal sign and do a duplicate. Now I've got that costume number equals 3 in my hands here, and I'm going to pop it into the slot of the new if statement. So what we're looking for here is costume number 6, which if you set this up properly, let's double check this again. So in your costumes, the 6th costume down with marked as a number 6 is going to be your missile. If number 6 is not your missile, this is not going to work. So be very cautious here, guys. All right, so if costume number is equal to 6, we're going to shoot ourselves as a bullet. Now, let me explain what that means, guys. So it's difficult with clones because they follow a specific set of instructions, but we want our clones to shoot at a slightly randomized time. We want them to take turns shooting pew, 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 instead of shooting all at once, right? The problem with that is that once you set a clone loose, it's difficult to give them instructions because you can't tell the second clone to do something that the first clone doesn't. There's just that one command that says when I started the clone. So we're going to give these clones a little bit of artificial intelligence by telling them to switch into a missile, make a copy of themselves, and then switch back into a ship again. And what's going to happen is, in that moment, when they make a clone of themselves and switch into missile mode, they're going to start following a new set of instructions for what a missile does. And so we don't have to worry about timing and controlling the clones. We just have to turn them into a new kind of clone, and then they'll follow a new set of instructions. A little complicated, but I hope you guys understand. It'll make a bit more sense as we're building here. So if costume number equals 6, then we're going to shoot ourselves as a bullet. Now, we don't have a command for that yet, so we're going to make a new block. We're going to go down to our My Blocks button, and we're going to create a custom set of commands for that. So let's go make a block, and that block is going to be called shoot self as bullet. Okay, I'm going to go okay. So now I have this new red block that will let me define what that means, and I also have a new block that I can slip into here that also says shoot self as bullet. So this will execute the command that's down here below. I guess we can do that. Oh, there's something else that we have to change here in our initialize enemy before we leave. So we have to, there's a new variable that we're using here. I don't think it's in here yet. It's called shooting. And what that will determine is, it's just a flag that says, am I currently able to shoot or not? So, or am I currently shooting in this phase right now? And so at the beginning of the game, they're not shooting. They're not able to shoot while they're swooping on the screen. So we just changed that shooting variable to 0. So let's go ahead and make a variable. Now, this is an important step here, guys. I believe that this shooting variable has to be a local variable. It has to be attached to that particular clone, right? So that each clone has its own shooting orders. In order for that to work, we have to click here where it says for this sprite only. And that actually works for clones too, which means that all the copies we make are also going to have a local variable. Every single clone, for example, will have its own hit points and will have its own instructions. So I'm going to call this shooting. And I've made sure to click that for this sprite only button. I'll go OK. And so now at the very beginning, under initialize energy, we're going to say enemy. We're going to say set shooting to 0 to say that we're not shooting. Okay, so there's quite a bit of code here. I'm going to keep plunging through this, guys, because I know you want to see something actually happening here. So let's do all the code here for the for drone 2, and then we'll take a little break. Shoot self as bullet. Let's go ahead and fill that in while we have it up on our screen here. So what's going to happen when he shoots himself as a bullet? Well, first thing we want him to do is point downwards. So we're going to go to our motion blocks and tell him point in direction, which is this one here, point in direction 90. I'm going to change that number to say 180 by dragging the slider all the way down to the bottom. Okay. Next thing we need is a forever loop. So let's just go forever, control forever. Inside there, we're just going to get it to check and see if it's touching the edge of the map, because we want our missiles to disappear when they touch the edge. So if, and let's go to our sensing blocks and go touching mouse pointer. We'll change that to touching edge. Then we'll delete the clone. If we're touching the edge, we'll just get it out of our way. So we'll go to control. And the last block under control here is delete this clone. Let's grab that and pop that in there. And the last thing, so if we're not deleting ourselves, we're going to be moving. The instructions for this guy are pretty simple. So let's just go to our motion blocks, and we'll tell our guy to move 10 steps. Okay, that's all we need for shoot as a bullet. We're nowhere near shooting yet, so there's a couple of other things we have to do, guys. Now, my enemy is initialized. Okay, I need to change that shooting variable. So when is he going to shoot? It's during the hovering phase. So we're going to have to go over to define hover here and tell it right at the beginning that we can set our shooting to 1 so that he's allowed to shoot. So we're going to grab a set variable, pop it under hover, go set shooting to 1. There we go. And I think that's all we need to do in hover. Now there's 3 or 4 other things we have to change here. Let's go to the block that says test collision. There's a little change we have to make in there. So if you guys can look for the little red block that's called test collision. I found it right here on my screen. Let me save my file again just in case. And okay, in here, all we have to do is change the score. So these second guys are going to be worth more points. We're just going to change the score that we get for killing them to 2 instead of 1. We need another variable, another shooting variable here, and where it says fly away. So this is when he's done hovering, he's going to fly away and he's not allowed to shoot anymore there. So we're just going to set that variable shooting back to 0 again in the fly away portion. So far, so good. And I think we only have one more bit of code here, and let's see if this works now. So I'm going to go to define shooting. So we have one more custom block here called shooting, and I'm not sure where that is invoked from. Okay, so until I find that block, I'm not quite sure what so there must be another, there's one more piece missing here that I don't have in my manual. I thought, it's on the back page here. There's a couple of things here. Okay, all right. So we need a new custom block here that says shooting. And what this one is going to do is, this is the block that's going to change the costume to a missile costume and then back to an ordinary costume again so that it knows to create a copy of itself. So we're going to create one more custom block. This is the last one we're going to need. So go to make a block. And we're going to create a new block called shooting. There we go. And let's just go ahead and fill those details in. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to repeat 4 times. And I'm trying to figure out why we're doing that 4 times. We're switching our costume. I guess, is each of these guys making 4 bullets? It's quite possible, eh? There's a little delay. So each guy is going to spit out 4 bullets right now. So let's go to our control blocks. We'll grab a repeat 10. And I'll change that number to 4. All right, inside there, we want it to wait. So let's go grab a wait block. Wait 1 second here. So in between each bullet, he's going to wait just a fraction of a second. So let's type 0.15 is the amount of time we're waiting here. And we'll go if shooting is equal to 1. So if I am shooting, let's grab an equal sign under operators. If shooting, and we need to put a 1 here on the right hand side, and we need a bubble that says shooting. So let's go over to our variables, and we'll find the bubble that says shooting right here, and we'll pop it into the hole. If shooting is equal to 1, which means we are able to shoot, we're just going to switch our costume over to the bullet, to the costume that's a bullet. So let's go over here, and the bullet, so the naming convention is a little bit wacky here, but the bullet is actually called bullet 20 or item 20. So let's go tell him to switch costumes to 20. Let's go to our looks, and we're going to go switch costume to 20. Then while we're in that temporary state, we're going to go to our control blocks and create a clone of myself. So now we're going to make a copy of that bullet that's going to start working on its own. And then we're going to switch our costume back to the default costume, which is costume 8. There we go. So that will go ahead and create 4 of those bullets, 0.15 seconds apart. And there's a little bit more here over on the flips page here. Getting close, guys, getting close. So we've initialized our enemy. That part is good. I just want to check the initialize enemy one more time. Yeah, if it's equal to 3. Okay. One last thing now. So now we need one last command here to tell it to start shooting. If the costume number is 3, hold it. If costume number is 3, then if shooting, then shoot. Costume number is 3. Oh. So if it's on the explosion, what? Okay, that's a weird one. If costume number, oh no, it's not. My poor eyes are failing me. If costume number is less than 3, that didn't make sense to me. If that it would do something during the explosion. So if your costume number is 2 or 1, then we're gonna actually pull the trigger here and shoot. So we have our new shooting block that we created right here. And where is the definition for the shooting block? I must have left it on the screen here somewhere. Let me just minimize this for a second until I can find it. So where did it go? I created a new custom block here called shooting. Oh, there it is. Hold it. Oh, yeah. Okay, so that part's done. Sorry, I got confused about my steps here. So what I want here is a new when I start as a clone. I got a little bit confused here. It's Monday. Give me a break. So when I start as a clone, we're going to say if, and it's not an if else, I'm checking. We're going to say if costume number is less than 3. So we need a less than sign. If looks costume number. Sorry, costume number is down at the bottom of our looks menu. It's these ones with the round edges. If costume number is less than 3. Now, once the costume number is less than 3, these missiles are not gonna have to go back into and check anything else again. So we're gonna get into a forever here now, and these missiles are gonna follow their directions and not do anything else here other than move. So we need to get into a forever here, and that will lock us into that action. And inside there, we're going to put another if statement. So it's going to keep looping around and firing every time shooting is equal to 1. So let's grab an equal to sign here. And we're going to pop that variable shooting is equal to 1. So if we're shooting, then we're going to make that bullet using that new custom block called shooting. So if we're shooting, then we're shooting. I'm not sure if that's the best way to name these, but that'll do for now. And then we're going to wait 2 seconds before we can shoot again. Now it's still going to fire 3 bullets, but basically if it stays on the screen for more than 2 seconds, then it'll shoot again. And it probably won't have time to. I just think we have this here in case for some reason he sticks around on the screen a little bit longer. Okay, so our costume might still be messed up here. Let's see if this works. I think we have everything ready to test this now. I'm going to hide some of these variables that are in my way here. We don't really need to be looking at these. So shooting is the one we're not interested in. Okay, let's max the screen out. Click the green flag, and let's hope this works. Let's check it out. Here come my guys. Oh, my first, okay, so my initial B guys are coming in, but my other guys are not. They're not being spawned even, eh? So what's going on here? It has to do with that costume change. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break and we're going to resolve this explosion thing. I see that my costume is back to explosion again here, and that seems to be what's messing me up. So I'm going to go have a look at it with my audience here, and let's see if we can figure it out. Okay, guys, we're back. I solved my own problem and I figured out why they were coming in as explosions. It was because when we changed the graphics on the costume, we also changed the names of the costumes. And so we have to go in and just fix the names of the costumes so that it knows what to do. Now we're going to be making changes to 2 different blocks. So here's the fly onto screen thing. A moment ago it said switch to costume 10, which doesn't even exist, right? So we're going to make sure this says costume 2, which is the flying costume. So we're just going to change that from 10 to costume 2. And we have to do that one more time inside the fly away block, because otherwise they're going to turn back into an explosion again. So one more time, we're switching costume to costume 2. Okay, so that absolutely solves all the problem. Let's give it a look here. Press the green flag. And here come our guys, and the red guys, as you can see, will start shooting. Now whoa, and there we go, good. All right, now some of the sound effects are missing from this file too, and that was part of the problem with moving this over. So we should go have a look and make sure that all our sound effects are in place here. Like when I shot these guys, they should have made a noise, I think. Let me, so that guy, yeah, these guys they're all making the same noise when they die. I thought that oh, maybe not. Okay, let's just leave the sound effects for now. We can have another quick look at it on our way out when we're done everything else. Okay, so it looks like everything's working properly here now. Let me just play a round of the game for reals here, and we'll see how this works. And they're shooting at us, yes, and everyone's dying, and we can die too. Let's just make sure that, yes.
Can you save your file, please?
I can do that. Chris, can you ask Maya next time so you don't interrupt my broadcast?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, no problems. Okay, so I've saved my file now, and we're all good to go. Okay, so we're going to start working on drone 3 now. And so drone 3 is the one with this fancy graphic on it that has the big guy. These are the leaders, right? So we're going to give them some extra code to give them 2 hit points instead of 1. They're going to kind of change color and glow the first time that you hit them. And the other thing that's going to happen is they're going to shoot these guided missiles that actually point at you. The drone 2s only shoot straight down. These ones are actually going to point at you and shoot a big blob of missiles at you. So let's start working on that. First, we have to go make a copy of our guys. So again, just like we did the first time, we're just going to make a copy of drone 2 rather than dragging all the copy over to drone 3. And then we'll just take the graphics from drone 3 and drag them over to our new drone. So I'm going to right-click on drone 2 here, duplicate, and that guy's moved to the end here. I'm just going to drag him right after drone 2, and he's called drone 3 now, and that's actually the proper name, so that's good. Now, we need to go back and look at his graphics and make sure his graphics are all there. So I'm going to go to his costumes. We don't need these first 2 costumes, so I'll trash them. We don't need the missile either. We've got a different kind of missile. So I'm going to trash those. We just need these 3 explosions. Now I'm going to go over to my drone 3, the old one. I'm going to click on that, look at the costumes, and I've got a couple of costumes here that I need. I got the 2 main costumes for my character, and I've also got the missile down here. So I'm going to copy all of these one by one and drag them on top of the new drone 3. Here's 1, here's 2, and here is drone 3. Okay, we can go back to, so we want to make sure the order is correct. So I'm done with this guy. Well, let's just double check and make sure that all our graphics copied over properly. Yeah, we've got our 3 new graphics here, a total of 6. So now I can trash this drone 3. We don't need him anymore. I don't know if he has any sound effects in him. He has a hit 1 sound. That's what I'm worried about, is deleting these sounds by accident. So does this guy have a hit? This guy only has the hit 1 sound effect. So I'm actually going to drag this hit 1 sound effect over to drone 3 as well, just so that I have all the proper sound effects there. And now I can trash drone 3. And let's go over to the new drone 3. And we can start coding him. Oh, we have to readjust these costumes. So I'm going to drag these costumes up to the top now. The first costume and the second one. So our first two costumes are animations of our dude. And so the first one, wings closed, the second one, wings open. And then the last costume, number 6 here, is going to be the missile. So let's be careful to do that. Okay, so we are ready to start coding clone drone. I'm getting clone and drone mixed up, guys. Sorry. It's time to start coding a drone 3. We're coding drone 3, coding drone 3, coding. You get it, right? I hope you get it by now. All right. So we've got everything in place here from drone 2 already. We just have to do a few new things. So let's start by going over to the shooting blocks here, which are... So again, we're just changing the behavior of this guy a little bit. Oh, here's shooting. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is this guy, instead of shooting 4 bullets, he's going to shoot 8 bullets. So we're going to change this repeat 4 block to repeat 8. We're going to have him wait a little bit less time between shots. So these shots are going to be more of them and they're going to come faster. All I want you to do is change this 0.15 to 0.1. So that'll be a little bit faster. And the other thing we have to do is switch. So make sure that he's switching to the right costumes here. So right now he's switching to costume 20, which I believe is the bullet costume. It still is the bullet costume. And then switching back to his flying costume, which is not costume 8. It's actually costume 2. So let's switch to costume 2. There we go. That's working nicely. Now, what else do we have to do? Now, this guy turns at a slightly different radius than the other guys as well. So when he's swooping on the screen, he does a tighter curve. Let's go File, Save here, and then we can go back. We're going to find our Fly Onto Screen event. Fly Onto Screen, here it is. So both these places here where it turns 10 degrees and then moves 10 steps, that happens twice here, as you can see. Yes, Avi?
In my code, once you get past the first level, it automatically turns to level 4.
The level 4? That shouldn't be right. Well, let me try playing the game here quickly just to see what's going on here. So I'm starting at round 1. I'm playing my game. Oh, I died. Well, for this to work. Yeah, that round, since I died, should have gone back to 1, eh? All right, we're gonna troubleshoot these round.
Back to 1.
It did, eh?
Yeah.
Look, now yours changed to 5.
All right. So yeah, it did. So let's we're gonna have a look at that at the end once we're done. We'll have a bit of time for troubleshooting at the end because we'll probably be done a little bit early. So let's just put a pin in that for right now, Avi, and keep working on our drone before I get sidetracked here, okay? So fly onto screen here. So we're turning 5 degrees and moving 5 steps. So he's moving slower and at a higher angle. So we're just gonna change all these 10s to 5s. Gonna do it 4 times. There we go. And that is I believe, the only difference in the fly onto screen block. Now let's go over to shoot self as bullet. And this is where we're actually going to tell it to aim the bullets at directly at us. So let me find that block. It's hidden somewhere. There's so much code here. Shoot self as bullet. I've got it here. So we're going to need to make a bit of space here because we've got to add some code here. So pointing in direction. So right now the bullets are pointing down. Let's get rid of this block. We're going to trash the point in direction 180 block. And what we're going to use here is point towards my guy, my ship. So now when the bullets are created, they're going to be pointing towards you. Oh, and that's all we have to do here. Oh, they need to move a little bit slower as well. So instead of moving 10, they're going to move at a speed of 6. That's how fast those bullets are going to move. Okay. All right, and one last set of things has to be done here. Okay, so let's go over to test collision. All right, so we're over in the test collision box now. So this is where we're going to give our bad guy some hit points. We're going to make it so that you have to hit him twice. All right, so let's get started on that. So if touching my missile and costume number, that part is all good. Okay, so it's a little bit confusing here, but we have to take, so we're gonna have to dismantle a little bit of this code. I'm gonna grab everything inside this if statement and pull it down for a second and grab it loose from this code so that we can add some new code above it. This is all going into an else statement in the if-else statement. So it's going to basically kill him if, hold it. So it's going to, so this is the collision, right? Change score. This is the event that happens if we die, basically, if we get killed by the guy. So we're only going to die if we've lost our second hit point. So we need an if-else statement here that says what to do if the first hit point goes away. It'll make more sense as we're working on it. I hear someone playing their game in the distance. Avi, you haven't muted your mic, buddy. All right, so inside this if statement, we're going to leave these blocks at the bottom for now. We're just going to, we need a new variable here called enemy health. And that again is going to be a local variable. It's not going to be a global one. So we're going to go to our variables, click on make a variable, and we're going to type in enemy health. And before we hit OK, we're going to click for this sprite only. So each clone is going to have its own hit points, and it's very important that we click this, or all the clones are going to have the same hit points, and when you kill one of them, you're going to kill all of them. All right, here we go. So now, if touching, we're going to change a variable. We're going to change enemy health by -1. So if the first time we get hit, we're just going to change your health by 1, and we're not going to kill us. Now, here's where the if-else goes. So here's where we decide the two different things that are going to happen. So if-else, we're going to pop that in there. Everything inside, so everything that we pulled out can go back into the if statement. All right, let's do that first. So inside the first loop of the if statement here, we're going to put all of the code that we just pulled out. And this is only going to happen, this is us dying basically. So if enemy health is equal to 0, we're going to do all this stuff. So let's go grab an equal sign. We're going to pop enemy health into there. Enemy health is equal to 0. So if we've died, that's going to happen. Else, we're going to repeat. So the first time we get hit, we're just going to change our brightness to make us look brighter for a second, and that will show everyone that we've been hit once. So under the else statement here, I'm going to grab a repeat loop. Let's go control, repeat 10 times. I'm going to change that 10 to a 5. And in there, we're going to go to our looks menu and find the block here that says change color effect by 25. We're going to pop that inside this repeat loop and change that number to 20. And we're not going to change our color. We're going to change our brightness. So I'm going to hold down that little menu and select brightness. Now, once we make it bright, we need to unbrighten it again. So we're just going to repeat. We're going to right click. We're going to make a duplicate of this last set of instructions. So I'm going to duplicate this repeat loop. Right click, duplicate. Put it immediately underneath the other one. They have to be parallel, right on top of each other. And I'm going to say change brightness by -20. All right, it will probably be a miracle if this works on the first try, but let's see what happens. I'm just going to go to my maximize screen here, click the green flag, and see if these guys come down and... Whoa, there's too many of them. They are shooting at us, but there are 4 of them instead of the 1. Okay, so we got to the bottom of our mistake here. It was just that when we made the copies of the clones, the copies of the drones, the first, back in our drone 1, we're making clones of drone 2 and drone 3, but it's trying to make clones of the old sprite rather than the new one. So what we're going to do is go back to drone 1 1 code, and you can see right here is the spot where it creates the clones. This used to say a lowercase drone 2, so that was the old drone before we made the change. And here's drone 3, which again is it was lowercase. We're making it uppercase just by selecting it. So now you'll see once we start playing the game that everything is working beautifully. Let me hide that variable that I don't need to see here. Oh, it's under drone 3. I have to go to drone 3 to hide it, because otherwise I won't see it. Okay, good. All right, let's play the game. There we go. And this guy's shooting at us. They're all shooting the way they're supposed to. I can get killed. Beautiful. So I'm back to round 1 again, which is good. And now it should switch to round 2. Beautiful. Nice. It looks like our game's working quite nicely now. And you can see it gets harder and harder, more and more bad guys to avoid. And round 3, yeah, and it looks like the round numbers are working perfectly now. Nice. Okay, so it looks like our game's going well now. Excellent. All right, so we just have a couple more things to do, and then we'll be good to go. The first thing is we want to get that logo, the Galaga logo, onto the screen. So let's go and find the code for that. I don't know if I have the code here, so I'm just going to grab it off of my my finished file. Okay, sorry. Just a moment, guys. Just got to get this set up properly. Okay, so this is the final version. I'm going to move it over here. Okay, so we're going over to the logo, and we're going to start coding that. So we want the logo to be visible at the beginning, and then we just want it to fade out after a couple of seconds. So we're going to go to our green flag. Let's go green flag, save. I just saved my file. All right, when green flag clicked, we're going to bring this guy to the front. So let's go to our looks. We'll go to front layer. So under our looks menu, towards the bottom here is one that says go to front layer. We're going to make sure that it's unghosted because we're going to ghost it completely. So we're going to set our graphic effect. Here is the one that says set color. I'm going to change that to say set ghost effect, ghost. And we're going to set it to 0 so that it's turned off. Now we're going to play some music. We're going to play the la da 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 beginning sound, and I believe that's already in our sound here, loaded up under sounds. Yeah, here it is. And you can hear that. So we're just going to play that sound effect. Play sound intro. And then we're going to, once the music is done, so we're playing sound until done, and then when the music's done, we're going to just fade out. So we're going to fade out by repeating 20 times. We'll repeat, change that number to 20. And we're going to go change ghost effect by 5. So we'll go to our looks menu, grab a change color effect, change it to set ghost effect, and change by 5. Okay, now there's a timing issue that we've caused here because this thing's going to stay on screen for the 9 seconds or so it takes for this to go. So let me show you. So our guys are coming down, but we can't... Oh, what happened to our thing? I didn't even see it on the screen. So we're going to the front layer. Oh, we didn't make it visible because it's invisible now. So let's just make it visible. And that should work now. All right, you can hear that some stuff's happening simultaneously here, right? So what we have to do is delay the beginning of the game until after this Galaga logo has gone off the screen. So let's go back to our My Ship graphic, and we're going to tell it before it spawns the first player, we're just going to tell it to delay for 9 seconds. So let's go to our wait command here. And we're going to go grab a wait 9 seconds. Now, the nice thing about this is you're not going to have to wait 9 seconds every time. It's just going to be the first time you play the game, you'll wait, you'll see the Galaga logo, you hear the Galaga music, it'll fade out, and then you play, and then when you die, it's not going to go back to the beginning again. It's just going to spawn a new player, and it'll go back to round 1, and then you can play again. And if you survive round 1, it'll go to round 2, and it'll keep going. So the object here is to change your high score so that it gets up to so you get the highest high score during any particular round is the idea, right? So you're going to keep playing, and every time you die, instead of starting from the beginning and clicking the green flag, you can just keep going then and not have to wait that time. So let's give that a try and just make sure it all looks good. And those guys are still spawning early here, eh? And that's fading out. So it was not supposed to do that to spawn the players until afterwards. So what is making them start early? Do they have a green flag here that says... Huh.
They do have green flags. Like
They do, yeah. So they're starting right away. Just let me see what we did in the code to slow those guys down. Do they have a wait in them as well? Just a second, I'm going to check that out. I'm going to take another break, and I'm going to show a remix as well. So I'll be right back, guys. All right, so let's get back to the code here again. And there's just one other little detail I wanted to put in, and that was this is an optional graphical effect that I'm going to show you guys in a second here, okay? So just let me get back to my default screen here again. All right, getting close here, guys. We figured out the source of that problem. There was one more wait 9 seconds we had to do, so we're going to do that and one more thing, and then we will be done. So drone 1 is the drone that's creating all the clones of all 3 of the guys, and that one needs a wait 9 seconds in it as well to get everything working properly. So you need both your ship and your drone to wait 9 seconds before everything goes, and then everything should play quite smoothly. Let's give it a try. So the first time we play the game, and then it fades away. Now we can move our ship. We hear the round start music. We play. You can almost always avoid these bad guys by going to the edge of the screen, by the way, guys. It's a bit of a hack. All right, here we go. Nice, and you can see I'm on round 2 now. I'm doing quite well at surviving. Let's try round 3. And it looks like everything's working beautifully. Our high score is adjusting appropriately as well, you can see. Whoa. Okay. I think our game is looking fantastic. Now, there's one other little graphical touch I wanted to add, guys, which is just a little thing called falling stars here. So if you click over to this new sprite here that says falling stars, this is a graphical effect. That's already here, eh? I've already done the coding for it. I forgot to delete it in the working file. So this is a graphical effect that is in the original Galaga, and I disconnected it. I hid it because I was worried that it would slow down the game a little bit too much. So if you just show this, we're just going to click on show and then maximize their screen. You'll see what this looks like. This looks more like the original arcade game. Let me see if this is working properly first. No, actually, okay, so it's not working properly. There's something in the code here. So, we aren't creating clones of ourselves. So what we actually have here, let me explain this to you. We have a little tiny dot here, and all we're doing is making copies of it at the top of the screen and then having them fall randomly down the screen. It just creates this effect that looks like we're moving through a star field. So here's what we're doing. We're creating this randomly at the top of the screen and then making a copy. And as soon as the copies get made, they fall down until they touch the edge of the screen. Let me show you again what that looks like. And you can see the subtle little star thing. So if you find that this slows down your game too much, you can disconnect it or just delete that sprite entirely if you want. But the idea is it looks a little bit more like the arcade version because of the graphics. It might make it a little more difficult to see your missiles too, though. So I'm not sure how you guys feel about it. But that's just a nice little extra thing that makes it look a little bit more like the original. Yes.
You know, you haven't completely coded. Like, you can still touch the bullets of like the drone 2 and 3, and it won't damage you at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that. Okay, so that's something we should fix before we sign off, right? So the collision all happens inside our main ship here, I believe, eh? So if touching, oh, you know, the problem is the drone names here again, guys. So we just make sure that our drones all have capital names in here. So in the ship, we actually have only 3 things we can bump into. We had 4 here. We don't need that last or statement, but it'll ignore that. So change this drone 3 to drone 3 with a capital D, and change drone 2 to drone 2 with a capital D. That was all that was going on there. Sorry, I didn't notice that when I was playtesting the game because I was doing such a good job avoiding the missiles. But let me just confirm that for you guys. All right, I'm just going to let myself get shot by one of these purple missiles. Just to confirm that we died there. It looks okay, so I am sorry about all the confusion today. This was a particularly difficult file because we're doing a lot of copying over, but the copies didn't have all the information we needed, and we had some problems with the sprite names and stuff as well. So I'm just going to try and make sure these things are planned a little bit better next time so that we know exactly the steps we have to do to go from copying one thing over to the other. Live and learn, guys. Live and learn. So, I think we are done for today. Tomorrow I will be back again with the lip sync program. So we're going to teach our Scratch to do the same thing